Hi, I want to thank Commissioner slash Director Treese and the West Side Economic Alliance for this opportunity to introduce myself to all of you. My name is Jeff Hindley. I'm running for County Commissioner for District 1, which represents Beaverton, Lower Reedville, and Cooper Mountain areas. Professionally, really briefly, I've worked in county government for 21 years, primarily Yamhill County. I've been an administrator for about the last 10 years in a management capacity. The Department of Community Justice. My first 10 years with the county were working with at-risk youth who have both been criminally affected as well as high needs mental health youth and their families when I worked about 4 years in HHS through the wraparound case management about 14 years ago now. I've lived and grew up in Beaverton. I went to Beaverton High School, graduated in 86. I am currently on the Homeless Plan Advisory Committee for Washington County, as well as the Rural Roads Maintenance Advisory Committee, and I've been on those for several years, and hope to continue that, win or lose, in some capacity. I've been a member of my CPO now for many years, and I've learned a lot through that group. On a personal note, something that kind of helped evolve me into this a little bit was my wife is Asian, and I met her when she was young, and she kind of had this value of taking care of your family, something I had never really thought about before. And when we first got married, I was 24, and she said, "You're gonna have to help me take care of my parents someday because they're old, and I'm not gonna put them in a nursing home." And I said, "Sure, no problem." Well, little did I know, about a year later, that was going to be a reality for about the next 25 years. We moved her father in and a mother because her father was terminal with kidney failure from diabetes, and he died about 9 months later. And her mother, she's this sweet little old innocent Korean lady, really struggled with taking care of herself. So we moved in with her and spent the next 20 some years. She suffered from dementia. And about the last 3 years, she required constant care, was almost an invalid, unable to feed herself, toilet herself. And my wife's a nurse, and so she was gone a lot, and I had to do a fair amount of that heavy lifting when she was gone. And you learn a lot about yourself in terms of trying to be servant to someone, letting go of a lot of your own selfishness, giving up a lot of your time. You're kind of forced into it, but you adapt to it over time, and you learn a lot about yourself, like I said. And she died about 3 years ago, and it was a kind of a big growth opportunity for the whole family as well as for myself. And as I was already in public service and I really enjoyed the opportunity to serve, I kind of wed those two together and was like, I have a lot I can give my community that I love and I grew up here with, and I can do something more than what I've done. And I thought elected service seemed like the pinnacle of that. And I think I have the right attitude and the right demeanor for it as well, and the experience that's, I think, right now really important. And so the opportunity was right. I just got out of graduate school. She had passed away, and my time freed up, and I'm like, I'm going to do this. I can do this, and I'm going to do it successfully, and I'm excited about it. And so that was kind of what launched it for me. I'm going to jump into the questions because they're important, and they'll tell you a little bit about my philosophy. We were asked to answer two questions. The first of which was, how can the commission help the community post-COVID-19? So a couple things. About a week ago, the county passed its kind of small business assistance program, $300,000 in grants, $875 for loans. Couple things. I'd like to see that doubled. I think we need to dip into our reserves a little bit to expand that program a little bit. To me, reserves are for a few things. Natural disasters, pandemics definitely fall into that category. We've been managed pretty well financially, and we have the capacity to do a little bit more. So I'd like to see that doubled. The other thing I'd like to see is I'd like to see about a fund of about $1 million. We could either create a special fund, or we can make it a part of the board priority investments, and supplement some of our local providers that are providing direct service in ways the county is not. And this specifically would be for rent assistance, energy assistance, food assistance. We need to do this. We need to protect our citizens. We had a 3.2% unemployment rate before this happened, lowest in food insecurity, lowest poverty rate of any major county. We can't lose that. That's what drew people here. That's what made us the greatest county. We have to protect our citizens the best we can. And this is a time to dip into some of that reserves. If you know anything about me, I'm fairly fiscally conservative, so spending money is difficult. However, I'm also a realist, and I care about folks, and I know that this is the time we need to spend some of that money. That's why we develop reserve funds. That's what that's for. The other question was, how can the county do a better job of supporting proactively the business community? couple things. Some of you might know that the county just developed a Department of Economic Development, and there's an interim manager right now, John Southgate, who did the original research for the department. We're going to eventually hire a full-time economic development manager that's going to focus primarily on the urban unincorporated areas of Washington County, which I think is great because they get no representation whatsoever, and there's many of them, and they're important. The job is also to support the larger communities, Beaverton, Hillsborough, Tigard, Tualatin, who have robust economic development departments, to be kind of a economic roundtables, to create a clearinghouse for information, for data, to support them in areas where there's gaps. We can do that. At the same time, the urban unincorporated area is going to get some support that they never got before, and I think that's a great idea. The second thing I do is probably create another special fund that's part of that department, that needs to, again, much like I talked about in question 1, help subsidize some of our community providers who are doing direct work that we don't do. Things like Community Action and their Health Careers Program, PCC's Workforce Development Program, the Hillsborough Chambers School to Careers Program. These are things we're doing to augment and supplement the current workforce, as well as creating a new workforce for the future for all of our businesses in the county, frankly. I'd like to see us subsidize and help support those groups a little bit more. The last thing I want to point out is that we get community development block grant money, and historically, the county has philosophically said we don't want to use that for economic development or workforce training, which you are allowed to do under federal guidelines. I don't think that's particularly great leadership. I think we should be open to all options and possibilities. I would like to see proposals brought forward every year. We're doing CBDG money, and look at how we can use some of that money for economic development and workforce development. And we can decide what our priorities are between the 5 of us at that point, but we should not stop options from coming to the table for us to look at how to strengthen our community, the business community, the economic community. That's about all my time. I ask you to go to my website, Washingtoncounty.com. Look at my policy positions in more detail, learn a little bit more about myself, and email me directly. I will answer any and all questions for folks who get a hold of me. Thank you for your time.